astro friends. This is Astrology AF, the show that talks everything astrology, above and below the totally real, not at all illusory sky. I'm Sunny, your host with over 30 years of chart reading experience.
And I'm Boots, your hostling with almost 30 years experience questioning innocent people to tears. We're here to walk with you through the twinkling starlight into the basic, the advanced, and the obscure.
Hi there, welcome to Astrology AF. My name is Boots.
And I'm Sunny.
And today we are here to present you with a Venus cast. We're going to be talking about her today. So, as you may be aware, Venus is a planet, and she is third in our order. We are following the Ptolemaic order of planets, and they are ordered in such a way because of their speed relative to the zodiac and how quickly they move across the sky, right?
Yeah, their
That's what you just looked into.
Their fastest possible speed.
Okay.
I mean, all the planets, or most of them, except the luminaries, everybody else goes retrograde. They slow down, they speed up. But the fastest possible speed.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah.
So Venus moves about a degree a day, right?
Roughly. In that, so here's where science gets to come in, where astronomy gets to come in. We know from telescopes and, people being out in space and all of that, we know that Mercury and Venus, from Earth's perspective, are staying right with the sun.
Okay, right.
We're all orbiting the sun. Earth is also orbiting the sun. Mm-hmm. So are the outer planets. But from an astrological perspective, we always see Mercury one sign or less away from the sun.
Right.
Venus 2 signs or less away from the sun. And that's because they're orbiting the sun.
Right. From our point of view, they're always together out here as we spin around them further out.
Right.
And so then when you get to, because those are the only ones that are really bound to the sun, right? And then Mars can be...
Visually, yes,
okay, right.
Correct.
And then you get out one layer further than us, and Mars doesn't have that limitation of how far away it can
Mars
be from
goes
the sun, right?
Mars goes wherever
because it's further out
than
than us.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So your initial question was Venus travels about 1 degree a day, and because Venus is traveling with the sun, which goes 1 degree a day, yes, that is the average speed of Venus.
Okay. So we use Venus in a number of ways. First thing to know about Venus is the signs that it rules, right? Mm-hmm. So we have Taurus as is Taurus nocturnal or diurnal?
I believe Taurus is the diurnal.
Diurnal. And then Libra.
And then Libra is the nocturnal.
Okay.
Venus ruled sign.
Right.
Yes.
And then also they get assigned, Taurus is Venus's feminine expression, yin expression.
Okay.
And then Libra is Venus's masculine or yang expression. And usually it goes that way. It's masculine planets are day, feminine planets are night, right? Okay.
There's some weird stuff with correlated, because also technically speaking, there are only 2 feminine planets, and all the rest are masculine.
Right.
So the moon is considered feminine, and Venus, of course, is considered feminine.
Yeah.
But everybody else is a guy. Even just correlating, masculine and feminine planets. Well, there's 2 versus 5,
right,
or more if you're going to also include the outers.
Yeah, and then I think it's interesting too that when you get into like triplicities, you have Mars ruling all 3 water signs by triplicity, and Mars is considered a masculine planet, and all three water signs are considered feminine signs. And so it's not always like, having a masculine planet in a masculine sign. They're always intermixed. And I think that says something about the nature of these energies that are observed with the signs and the planets, is that it seems to paint a good picture to me that at night it's night because there's a lack of light. The space is empty and ready to be filled and receptive, which it tends to be what we consider feminine. And then in day, the space has been filled by light. And so that energy is there, and it's going out as opposed to coming in. But yeah, that little digression.
And speaking of night, Venus, if one is born during the night, if you have a night chart, Venus is the greater benefic.
Right.
For a night chart. For a day chart, Venus is also a benefic, but it is a lesser benefic. It's not as potent and powerful.
And so with it being the lesser benefic, it tends to be, is it called lesser benefic because of its action being shorter lived or not as noticeable, or is that just because it's smaller?
Those are good questions. So in a day chart where it would be the lesser benefic, Venus's action is more, it's more restrained. It's more, it might be lovely food or a friend coming by or something that's wonderful, but isn't necessarily, fireworks going off in the sky. Oh my God, this thing happened. It was so great.
Okay, yeah.
Makes sense?
Right.
In a night chart, however, the things that Venus brings are the more potent, beneficial things.
Okay. Interesting. And Jupiter's kind of more chillin'.
And Jupiter is more just chilling and, being like friendly guy and,
He's like, oh no, I'm off right now. Venus is back. If you need anything, talk to her. Venus's rulership are Libra and Taurus. Venus's fall and detriment are Scorpio is fall or detriment?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Either one of these two are not great placements. Scorpio and Aries.
Right.
So both of the Mars-ruled signs.
Yeah. Mars also being the lesser malefic. It's funny that they kind of have like their beef together, and they don't like each other's signs, because Mars is also in its fall in Libra. They're directly opposed to each other on the in the zodiac, and then Mars rules Scorpio and Venus rules Taurus, and so they're also opposed to each other in that situation.
Yeah.
And then for Venus's exaltation, that occurs in Pisces, right? And then Venus's, I guess it's got just the exaltation, 2 rulerships, and a detriment. Well, a fall. Does Venus have a detriment? That's the other thing, is not all of the planets have detriments. Not all of the planets have falls. Some of the planets have both detriment and fall in one sign. If for the sake of getting familiar with these, you really do have to look at Ptolemy's list of essential dignities. So while she is looking at that, I'll go a little bit into the things that Venus tends to do for us, so that we see associated with Venus. So she is associated with all things beautiful and pleasant and lovely, luxury, and sweets and fruit and love and dates and kisses, and also diplomacy and agreements and social relations. So it's not just romantic relations, it's also any relationship that you have with people that you are trying to keep good. Venus is the one who knows the rules about what you do or don't do in order to preserve a friendship or to start a relationship with somebody. She is there as the advisor on how to be polite and how to deal with people in a way that you want to have a harmonious relationship. That being in kind of her more Libran side. The Libra side of Venus is very focused on relationships. And then on the Taurus side, she expresses more of her, I guess you could kind of think of it as Venus being in a garden, or Venus by herself on her day off. She's going to be drinking fine wine, and she's going to be eating great food, and maybe seeing great friends that she doesn't have to build a relationship with, but the relationship is already good. And enjoying flowers and sitting on fluffy cushions and all of that sort of thing are sort of more what I get out of Venus and Taurus, being like that tangible comfort and that physical pleasure. And then Venus in Libra being more of the conceptual.
I think of it as relational.
Relational, yeah.
Yeah. And interestingly, so you spoke about the rules, that Venus is good at the rules, and Jupiter is the law, and Venus is the rules.
Yeah.
Venus is also the unwritten rules, the unspoken rules. And just like, I heard this recently and I was like, oh, because just like Venus is the loveliness, the places where the rules are being obeyed, and it's just pleasing. Venus is also rules the places where the rules are not being obeyed, where things are not pleasing, the things that repel us.
Okay.
Venus is concerned with.
Okay. Because she knows the rules, the unspoken rules, polity and all of that. And she also knows, in knowing that, she knows what is against those rules, what is uncouth, what is not desirable. Both sides of the scales. With Libra, she understands both ends of the spectrum and knows how to keep that mean or to go off of it if she is not, if the center is not what is appropriate, because she's also very concerned with it, what is appropriate. Then she knows how to go to one end of the spectrum or the other and kind of slide those scales back and forth with when to be, I think that if you were to be bitched out by Mars or Saturn, it's something you've probably heard before, but if you get Venus to the point where she's yelling at you, that would probably be a different kind of sting, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
What'd you find?
So yeah, you were right. Exaltation is Venus is exalted in Pisces.
Okay.
And the fall is Venus in Virgo.
Venus in Virgo.
Across from Pisces.
Okay.
So, and then Scorpio and Aries are the exile or detriment of Venus.
Okay.
So there's actually 3 signs where Venus is not at her best.
Huh. Interesting. That's a whole quarter of the zodiac.
There's a whole quarter of the zodiac. And we also have to remember this is Venus not at her best. Which is, it's like, okay, all right, it's okay. It just means maybe grumpy.
Yeah, she's
You
still
know?
Venus. She just
She's
didn't
still
sleep as
Venus.
well as she would like to
Right.
have last night.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's something that I was reading about yesterday too, is that with the benefics, it's like you're not gonna suffer
Right.
from the benefic being somewhere. If you've got Venus and Scorpio in the 12th house, she's still going to be doing Venusian things. She just doesn't have as much power to act as she does if it's Venus in Libra in the 1st house, or Venus in Taurus in the 10th house, you know.
Right. True. Very true. So Venus is, the other things that I was coming across when I was doing my little bit of research or reminding, going through and going, oh yeah, I'd forgotten. Art, refinement, music, all of those, we can envision. I always talk about Venus in her own house or Venus in Scorpio's house. And I'm always drawing a picture of, Venus in her own house has all this beautiful Grecian furniture,
Right.
and water tinkling down in a fountain, and some beautiful, sweet classical music.
Yeah, being fed grapes on
on
a couch.
Exactly. And so that's what Venus is like in her own house. And then she goes into the house of Mars, for example, and it's all this metal furniture that's like, just awkward, and
He's just like, I made that in the garage.
it works, but it's ugly, and 3 different colors. The music is headbanging. It's just a complete mismatch.
Okay, yeah.
But back to Venus in her own, it's all this refinement. It's delicious food. It's beautiful music. It's art that gets you, that excites you and gets you thinking. So Venus is very much just those kinds of that vibe. It doesn't even have to be. It's not about a picture on a wall. It's the vibe.
Okay, yeah. Everything is following the golden mean and Fibonacci sequence, and all the timing is right, and the patterns are beautiful and perfect. And then so she has her exaltation in Pisces, and I kind of think of that as being that she's in a place where she wouldn't have picked what's up, like on the walls and the furniture and all that sort of thing, but she goes in and she goes, oh my god, I love this. This is gorgeous. Where did you find these drapes and stuff like that? Like, she is very at home there, but it's someone else's house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and exaltation, the best explanation I have ever heard for exaltation, she is an exalted guest.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is not your house, but we want to honor you. We want to serve food. We want to, bring people over that you would enjoy spending time with. You are our guest.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I've got the
Be your guest.
Be our guest going in my head. Yeah.
No more of that, or Disney will copyright strike us.
But yeah, so that's kind of the vibe of Venus in Pisces.
Okay.
This is not your home, but you are so welcome here. We are so happy to have you.
Favorite guest.
Favorite
the person
guest.
you want over all of the time.
Yes.
And so her being in then her detriment up in Virgo, that's kind of, I think of it as she's stifled and overwhelmed by Mercury going through and picking up individual grains of dirt off of the floor. And everything is kind of nice, but it's too stressful. It's not laid back how she likes to be. It's like there's too much. Oh, do you have everything that you need? Do you need any more coffee? Or is the chair comfortable enough for you? Yeah. I can get you another chair.
Mercury and Venus do not really share a vibe.
No.
I mean, they're not at war. They're not hating each other, but they don't get each other. You know. So
Yeah. There's a little bit of it's awkward. They see each other at holidays.
We should write stories for these planets having conversations.
Deeply anthropomorphized planets. I like that idea. I've got a few little notes here as far as Venus in horary charts and kind of some of the more other classical significations of Venus. She is considered cold, moist, nocturnal, feminine, rules everything that is soft, pretty, pleasant, fragrant, attractive, sweet fruits and candies, kisses, marriage, treaties. Marriage and treaties are kind of along the same line of being that agreement between people.
Negotiated.
Yeah. Fun, art, music, makeup, perfume, jewelry, and jewelers. I know a number of people who have Venus in Libra, myself included, who are very into jewelry making.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Let's see, musicians, people with Venus in any kind of position. You like music, and if you say you don't, you're not people. Sorry.
Oh. Wow.
Models and decorators, and then mothers in day charts especially. And then with the body, Venus rules the kidneys. And I also see it said that she rules the reins of the body. And I have no idea what that means. I have not bothered to go and look it up. Reins, I believe.
Okay, so like the leads that you hold on a horse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means. If you know what that means, please let us know.
Yeah.
And then she also rules the nose and the sense of smell, which I thought was interesting.
Makes sense.
And then the reproductive organs, particularly the feminine reproductive organs, or the receptive reproductive organs, however one would put that. But yeah, and then in her, I think that's about all that I had. Just harmonious relations and pretty things. And anytime that she's going through whatever house she's in during transits, she's typically bringing good things. And even if she has a difficult aspect going on with another planet, the best way to look at it, I think, is that she is more tempering the other planet, whether it be Saturn or Mars or Pluto, Uranus transits, Neptune transits, whatever. And if she is aspecting or conjunct to Jupiter, then that's just, you've got gravy with candy in it. You know, it's gonna be really good times for whatever's going on with both houses that they're in. And if you get a conjunction between the two, like we will in a couple of months here, or probably last half of next year, I would assume.
Yeah, a conjunction. So she'll be in Taurus. Yeah, that'll be in the spring.
Ooh, there's a good time for a talisman. Yeah, when that Jupiter and Venus conjunction happens in Taurus, that will be, assuming Jupiter isn't retrograde, and even if it is, it still won't be bad.
Right.
That will be a really good auspicious timing.
There's an auspicious time coming up in March where Jupiter is still in Taurus, direct, not retrograde, and Venus will be in Pisces.
Yeah.
So that's a lovely time where we can be doing all the lovely stuff.
I actually have that saved in my calendar as the when I'm going to make the second part of my Venus talismans.
Nice.
Because I've got when Venus first went into Libra a couple months ago from recording, I made a Venus talisman that was all about having Venus and Libra qualities. And then, it was really quick and I wasn't prepared enough, and so I ran out of time. I didn't get to make all three of them. I only got to make one. And so I still have the other parts, but I'm going to wait until March, when Venus is exalted in Pisces, and then we'll also have Jupiter there in Taurus. I think that will be a really interesting placement for making a talisman with as well. And I have not seen anybody talk about making talismans in two parts, because I did definitely consecrate the emeralds and the copper wire and everything at the time that Venus was in her own term in Libra, but I have no idea what's going to happen with taking those and then reconsecrating them under Venus in Pisces, with all of that going on too. So it'll be interesting.
And so if you're needing ketchup on not the tomato stuff, if you're needing to be caught up, what we're talking about is making a talisman, making a piece of jewelry, or it can be done on a piece of paper. There's all kinds of but it's making an object under a particular astrological configuration. And the object then continues to carry the magic of that configuration, even after it has moved on and Jupiter is no longer in a good sign, a good place, or whatever. It's still got that energy.
Yeah, so you can kind of carry it with you.
Yeah, and so we've both been experimenting with some talismanic experiments.
Yeah,
just
pretty much. And I've heard it recommended by other people just on YouTube. Start off with maybe just something in paper. Pick your glyphs, your words, sigils, whatever you're going to use on it, so that if things go awry, it's easy to destroy and get that out of your life. And I said, no, I'm going to use stone and metal for my first one. Because I've got wire clippers and hammers, so I can bust it up if I have to. But so far it's working out just fine, and I haven't had to kill it.
Yeah, but so Venus transits are beautiful times to make talismans. If for example, if someone who wants to attract a mate, that's a really great time to find a good time, create an object with the intention of I want to be married, or I want to be in a relationship, whatever.
Right.
There's tons of things. Venus is mostly all the good stuff that we want.
Typically.
I want a beautiful home. I want, I want delicious food. I want to go out on a date with a really cute person. All of that is Venus stuff. So this is a marvelous, topic to explore.
Not to encourage you to practice occultism or anything like that. It'd be the last thing we would want to do on an astrology podcast.
Make a beautiful necklace.
When Venus is going through various places in your own chart, though, it's also, if Venus gets into your 7th house, that can be a better time for going out and looking for somebody to get into a relationship with, or for business deals, or other things that can be signified by the 7th house. Or if she's going through, your 10th house subjects, career, your fame, what you're going to be known for, going through your first house, get a makeover.
Why don't we do this systematically, actually?
Okay, yeah.
I think it would be great. It's a good topic. So when Venus is in your first house, is a good time for a glow up. Yeah, it's also a really good time. Venus in the first is really good at it kind of gives people a charm, an ability to schmooze, to create bridges between themselves and other people.
Okay.
So that's a good time to be social.
Mm.
And perhaps even being social with people who you might have been intimidated by in the past.
A little extra boost of confidence.
A little extra boost of confidence. Yeah.
Okay.
So then Venus in the second house.
Money. Well, physical belongings, tangible stuff, not your house, but your wallet and your car and your decorations and things that you can pick up and move that you own.
Yeah, right. Possessions. I always say possessions, and if you can put them in a box, that's a second house topic. I mean, car obviously is an exception to that rule. Car is definitely a second house thing, but yeah, so having those things, having them get a glow up. I've been wanting to paint my car for, how long? I'm going to just do that now, that kind of thing. Also looking for checks in the mail that just show up. Like, I don't know why. It's royalty check from this thing that I did years ago.
Ed McMahon, is that you?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, third house
would be making up with your siblings is one good thing. It can also be good for if you have writing to do or reading to do or things that require communication and language. Venus through the third house would be really good for that. And then also literally siblings, like if it's a good time for getting together with your siblings, or if there are strained relations, it can be beneficial to have Venus there in order to help with trying to fix those kinds of things up as well.
Yeah.
What other kinds of things?
I always talk about the third house is also your car. So, this is also a time for, a spruce up for your car. This can also be a good time to, like, maybe I've decided that I don't want to patronize a particular coffee chain anymore. And I'm going to go find a new spot.
Okay. Kind of third places sort of thing.
Right.
Okay.
Third house is it's kind of our comfort zones, the places that we go on a regular basis.
Okay.
And so deciding that we want to find a new spot to hang out. Maybe the other one closes too early, maybe whatever reason. Could be no reason. I just want a new place,
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in fourth house, your house, redecorating, cleaning.
Yeah, fourth house, home decorating.
Yeah.
It's also a good time to, just like third house, we had an olive branch with siblings. Fourth house is family of origin. So if there are issues with, parents or, anybody in that small nuclear family, this is a good time to put out an olive branch to that.
Okay. And before we get too far ahead of it, I wanted to step back a little bit. We were saying that your vehicle is a second house subject, and then you brought it into the third house.
Right.
As well.
Oh, because of short trips.
Because of short trips.
Yeah.
Okay. And that would be, you can extend that to the house because the trip itself is third house, and then what you take the trip in or with can be brought in as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So kind of the same thing from two different perspectives.
Yes.
It's your thing, but it's also
it's your thing, but it's what you do with your thing.
Okay. Be careful what you do with your thing.
Which sounds bad. Okay, fifth house.
Fifth house. Oh, you know what time it is. Fun and games.
Yeah. Fifth house is
Nookie.
Recreation, is fun, is nookie, is creativity. Fifth house is, we were talking about Venus and art, for example.
Yeah.
This is a lovely time to just put your hand to something and be like, what if? What if I tried that?
Yeah.
You know, maybe it would look nice. Let's see.
Okay, anything creative.
Yeah.
So it can be either coloring or painting or redoing your cable management in your computer or in your
True.
server stack.
True.
Making it more pleasant to look at, easier to work with. Anything like that that is creative and kind of inspired.
Finding solutions that are not otherwise evident.
Yeah.
That's, you know, creativity, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Getting outside and gardening. And I've also heard it referred to, fifth house being referred to as like anything that you can call your baby. So whether that is your literal child or whether that's the project you've been working on for so long that has become your baby, you have created it. You are babying this thing. All of that falls into fifth house, and Venus going through there for you is there's no better time to, you know, put the finishing touches on something or to start something new or just really dig into what you've already had going. You'll have some additional help there from Venus being in that position for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then sixth house.
Sixth house. So sixth house is several things. It's health of the body. It's people that we supervise, people that we are kind of their boss, you know, even whether it's on, you know, a formal level or whatever, but it's people that, you know, that work for us. That can also be hired people.
Yeah, the plumber.
And it's also small animals. Your dogs, your cats, your hamsters, your, you know, all those things.
Okay.
So Venus going through there is a good time to take care of all of those things. You know, schedule doctor's appointments, especially if there's something that you like. I wonder if, I don't know if that's a thing, you know. Buy a plate of cookies for your people that work for you, or, you know, some kind of just little token of appreciation. Venus would very much love to be a part of that, you know, and they would probably love to receive that, you know. Great time for taking care of pets, you know, both get them to the vet, see how they are, but also like get them a new collar.
Yeah.
You know,
give them a bath.
Give them a bath, right? You know, all kinds of ways to just express love and care for all of those.
Okay.
All those creatures.
Yeah. And then moving into seventh house, it'll be that, I think this was what started our houses tangent with Venus, but relationships, one-on-one relationships, whether that is your lover or your just crush or your best friend or your business partners, so on and so forth. Venus being there is going to provide her grace into those kinds of relationships. So it can be a great time for getting onto the, you know, God forbid I endorse this, but getting onto a dating app or going out to the places you go to in order to meet people. There is no better time for you than when Venus is in your seventh house in order to be pursuing those sorts of things. Venus, I think it's really interesting that seventh house represents lovers, but also thieves.
Huh? Yeah.
Which is funny because they don't steal your heart. But I don't know, maybe you'll have less trouble with thieves when Venus is in your seventh house with open enemies, because it's not just thieves, it's open enemies, people who are openly against you, because again, that is a one-on-one relationship, and so it falls in there. So ideally, when Venus is there, you'll be dealing with less of that crap on your plate.
Typically that would be what we would expect. Is things, you know, that have been at a simmer to calm down a little bit in terms of, you know, of open enemies. Maybe if it's at a simmer and we're talking about a love relationship, maybe that's, you know, maybe that gets boosted. But yeah. Eighth house.
Yeah. What you got?
So eighth house is, some of this is like, it's like administrative, okay? Eighth house is topics of resources that we share with someone else. Which, for example, if Bryce and I had a checking account, which we don't, but if we did, it would not be my checking account. It would not be Bryce's checking account. It would be ours jointly. So it is an 8th house topic.
Okay, right.
Okay. Things like wills and like, what's going to happen to your stuff when you pass away. And taxes show up in the 8th house as well in terms of, and that's strictly in terms of financial resources. However, I find a lot of times that the 8th house also has another layer of topic, which is like, for example, help. Help is if you are at the end of your rope and you don't have what you need, you don't have the resources. And I come along and I say, well, I can give you some cash, or I can give you some food, or whatever it is. That's resources that we have in common with someone else.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's not yours until someone gives it to you. So that's an 8th house topic as well.
And that seems to kind of stem from I also often hear 8th house being referred to as other people's resources.
Yes.
Or as being the 2nd house of the 7th. 7th being your partner, 2nd house being resources. It's your partner's resources.
Right.
And so you're combining those to say it's our shared resources.
It's yes, because it's resources that are not yours until they are.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it may be decades before they become your resources. It's not like 8th house is an automatic, oh, you're going to have $1 million in your checking account next week. But it's resources that are out there, and they might become yours.
Okay. Yeah.
Through whatever action.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So I talk about 8th house that way.
Yeah.
8th house is very much if you literally have a partner who's got finances that you're on the fringes of, whatever, just expressing appreciation for that person, just keeping those lines of communication open.
And it could also be a good time for starting occult studies. I hear occult topics be put into the 8th house often as well.
Yeah. Sometimes they do that because of Scorpio. And so, but I put them in the 9th. But
okay. See, and I had been doing that as well. Our esteemed astrologer friend, who we both know and know who we are talking about, was telling me that in his practice, 8th house is always all occult subjects.
Huh. Okay.
Not 9th house, not 12th house.
Okay.
8th house. And I'm not saying that I'm assuming he's the authority, but this is one that I'm coming across varied opinions on.
Yeah.
It seems like the more modern approach is to have occult subjects in the 8th house. And a more traditional approach has occult subjects, particularly astrology, in the 9th house, because it is a faculty of higher learning.
Well, I'm a traditional girl.
Right. I prefer tradition in general as well. And then I've heard some people, less often, but I have heard some people put occult topics into 12th house, because it's things that are hidden. And so each one of them could make sense in a way.
Yeah.
This is why it's both nice and would be nice that we don't have an authority, the Ministry of Astrology. And at other times, there's part of me that's like, it'd be nice if we could just settle this.
If we had a Ministry of Astrology, I can't even talk. I'm on a podcast and I can't even talk.
Hey.
So let's finish this. 9th house. Venus in the 9th is a good time to renew or bolster your studies of astrology or whatever spirituality that you engage in. Ninth house is, I talk about ninth house being higher learning, but I very quickly come back in and say I don't just mean college. What I mean is anything that you undertake to learn because it interests you. And so that includes things like, for me, that's always been astrology. It's been, tons of stuff, but it's any of those things that you quit laughing at me.
With you.
Okay.
Venus with you.
So yeah, good time to renew, to evaluate where am I going with these topics that I've been working on. Am I still happy with this? Am I still wanting to know more? Ninth house is also long distance trips. Now, the astrologers who developed this astrology talked about trips over water, but they were in ancient Greece, which has a little bit of land and a lot of water. And so everything was a trip over water. They weren't dealing with the continent that we in the United States, maybe you're listening from another locale, but in the US we have great distances that have nothing to do with water. And I have yet to figure out exactly where I want to lay that, but it's a long trip. You define what's a long trip for you, but it's a good time when Venus is in the ninth house to go on a long trip.
Yeah. And I've also seen people refer to it as special journeys as opposed to regular journeys.
Okay.
So they'll put, we put short distance travel in third house, and that can fall under regular journeys. So that's when you're just going to work a couple blocks away or a couple miles away, or going to anywhere that you frequent. Some people will put into the third house. And then if you are going on a long distance travel, say I'm flying to Beijing for work, but I do that all of the time, some people would consider that third house.
Okay.
And then ninth house is any level of special journey and or pilgrimage. So pilgrimage would include me going to a temple, even if it's right around the corner, and I go to temple every day. That is still going to be a ninth house topic because it is a special journey or pilgrimage to a place of spiritual significance.
Okay.
And so I think more people use just short distance and long distance, but just to add in that is one of the thoughts that has been presented as well, is special and mundane, as opposed to just short or long distance or over water or not. Because if I was going to New York City, the only water I would pass over would probably be the Mississippi River,
right.
The only notable one. And there's going to be some geography nerd out there who's going to be like, no, actually, there's 7 different rivers. But that's okay. I appreciate what you are enthusiastic about.
Yes.
But no water to be...
Right. No, it's certainly no ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on into 10th house.
10th house.
10th house is where if Venus is there, you got to become a beautician, honey. That's all there is to it.
Well, let's get a little broader. If when Venus is in your 10th, it's a good time to renew yourself in your career.
Okay.
So to maybe this is something I want to take more classes and get better at something. Maybe I just want to luxuriate. Maybe I feel like I'm really here and this is a beautiful place and I'm loving my career right now. Maybe I just want to luxuriate in it.
Yeah.
So
sitting there and stewing in the goodness. I had a Venus transit through my 10th house over earlier this summer, and nothing crazy happened along those lines, but it was just a nice time. Nice time at work. a nice time with, I didn't get famous or anything, but it was pleasant. That might have even been shortly, not too long before we started the podcast as well. So, yeah. And then...
and then 11th house. 11th house is groups and associations. I also tend to put extended family in the 11th house, just because, that my mother's uncle's roommate, if you do derived houses, that kind of thing just tends to show up in the 11th over and over again. So this is, obviously a good time to renew connections with these people. It's sweetness. It's bringing in the sweetness of Venus into these topics.
Yeah. And then into 12th house.
Yeah.
12th house is going to be, well, usually we look at it as, imprisonment and secrets and people who are against you kind of behind your back, or also hidden enemies. And I don't usually see too many, there's not the attempt at redeeming the 12th house the same way that there is in redeeming the 8th house.
True.
Because people say 8th house, oh, it's just death. And it's not just death, and it's justifiable to apply all these other significations to the 8th house, but the 12th house, I see less effort at putting good things into the 12th house.
Well, I see mental health showing up in the 12th house a lot.
Okay.
And so, my big thing would be to, when Venus is in your 12th, I would be saying, what are you doing for your mental health? How are you taking care of that aspect of your life?
Okay.
So, and then the other stuff, the other more dark meanings, it's like I say, well, it's Venus coming through. Hopefully it's making it less dark. Hopefully it's making it less threatening, less icky.
Yeah, illuminating and softening and sweetening and just bringing the Venusian qualities in. And one of the things I like so much about going through a particular planet and how it might behave in all 12 houses is that it really gives you a broader spectrum of what the planet signifies, what the planet does, or what happens around the planet and its patterns. And you don't really get to... For me, I don't see it as well until I've seen it in each situation.
Nice.
And how it might play out in those.
Yeah.
So hopefully all of these have been enough to give you an idea of what Venus is, how we learn from her, what we look to her for, and what she does in our charts, both natally and horary and, all of the other things.
Yeah. I mean, may Venus be ever in your favor.
Yeah. Hopefully Venus is coming to a nice house and sign near you soon. And if not, don't worry, because it's still Venus and she's not gonna break anything.
Yeah, we should talk about this because as we're recording, Venus is at the end of Libra.
Yeah.
And so she will be moving into Scorpio. So, but that's not terrible. It's just, okay. Venus will be inside of Mars's house going, what is all this stuff for? She's
just kind of standing small and not touching anything.
Right.
Waiting to get out.
But it'll be okay. So whatever house Scorpio is for you, that's where we can expect a little bit of Venus light coming in. So
yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, Astro friends.
Yes.
And next time we will be back with the sun.
The sun.
Yeah. Everybody's favorite giant ball of hydrogen flames in the sky. Or is it helium? I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
Gas.
I'm kind of dumb. That's all right. That's why we're here. I'm just the face. That's all. All right. Well, tune in next time, y'all, and thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here with us today. To keep getting more astrology with Sunny and Boots, like and subscribe.
To talk with Sunny in an astrological consultation, visit sunnysastrology.com to schedule an appointment. To reach Sunny and Boots about the show, email us at contact@astrologyafpodcast.com. Links in the description.